Hello and welcome to the Feedback Show. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Hi, Dad. How you doing?
I'm fine. Well, I'm fine. I'm a bit croaky again. I'm afraid I might have to live with this. So, folks, you might have to find that I've got a croaky Colin for a little while. It comes and goes. Sometimes it's very evident, and other times it's not. But I shall keep going, and as long as you can hear what I'm saying, that's the important thing.
You do quite a
I
lot of
can't do anything
talking,
about
though, don't you, throughout the week with all your
it.
projects?
Yes, I do. I do. And but it's got to be done, isn't it? Yeah. I am doing a little less on the videos recently. I've found that I'm telling people what they need to do, and then I'm showing them a little more without narration. It seems to be working, and so that is maybe something that we can do in the future a little bit more, rather than just yak, 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 yak. So,
Well, that'll help your voice, hopefully, as well.
oh, I think it would, yeah. But anyway, as I said, the important thing is I'm feeling very fit. It belies my actual fitness. I can go on forever at the moment, but the voice is just little things like that create a little problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll find out by the end of the show if I'm worse or better, or worse or better, or whatever.
Excellent.
Anyway,
So,
but what I am impressed with, Steve, is we do a quick run through on the projects before we start, and I think there's some fantastic stuff coming up. There really is, and people are so ambitious, and I think, and we'll see a very good example of Greg's picture later on that comes, and that I gave him feedback a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, on the tiger he's done, and the difference is chalk and cheese, as you will see. So the feedback show works. That's the important thing. It works, not just for the person who's sending the picture in, but everybody watching, and that's the idea of it.
Absolutely. Fantastic. All right, so let's crack on with the first picture. This comes from Alan. Hello, I've recently discovered you and have attempted a couple of your lessons. I like the pastels and the pastel pencils, so finding your website is great for me. However, there is one area I always struggle with, and that's foliage. I've attached the painting I've completed, drawn freehand. It's not perfect, a few wobbly lines, but I think I got the perspective and tones correct. But I'm really not happy with the trees. How can I improve this?
Well, we all know that foliage and trees are really hard. So you're not alone there, Alan. There's a lot of people struggling with that at the moment, and will continue to do so. The only way really is practice. But the other thing is on a situation like this where you have dark foliage going against a light sky, it's fearful. If you think about what you're doing, a few mistakes there and you've ruined the whole picture. And of course, it's done at the end, isn't it? Which is even worse, really, because it makes you more nervous. But the success of this depends on how much confidence you have and how can you improve it when you can just go over the whole thing again. What I would do, and be careful that you don't actually spread that foliage too much. I'd go over the areas you've already done with a darker colour. Do you know what I mean? See all the leaves, particularly the leaves near the lamp. Now, those leaves, if you went, I don't know how big you've done the picture, but if you've done it with size I recommend, it was about A4, you should be able to easily go over the top of those leaves with a little confidence. I'd do a few, just 2 or 3, to see how you get on with it. And use the dark colour, the 181 I think I used there, as far as I remember. I don't think I'd use a black. Black would be a bit fierce, but a nice sharp 181, and just do a few of those leaves and see how you get on. If they look like mine, you've cracked it. If they don't look like mine, don't worry. With practice you will do, but it's a really hard thing to do.
Is it more the contrast in this picture?
Yeah, that's all it is, isn't it? If you look at it, if you look at the whole thing, if you look at that, we have a your picture is a little mistier than my picture. If you look at it, the fogs come down a bit more on yours than they did on mine. And this is all about contrast, how you create the depth. The only thing I would also say to you, and I respect you for the fact that you have drawn it freehand. That's wonderful to do that, and it's very satisfying to do that. However, you can come unstuck occasionally, like the little boy is getting a bit big, really. Little things like that. You're coming. Square drawing would have helped you an awful lot here, and people get a misapprehension about square drawing. They say, well, you're squaring it up, so you're cheating. You're not cheating. What you're doing is planning. You're planning with square drawing. You still have to draw freehand. You still have to do it. You still have to draw it. It's just that the perspectives and the contrasts and one of the things people do when they're freehand drawing, and I've seen this so many times, they tend to make the figures fatter than they actually are. In other words, instead of long and narrow, they become squat and fat. And this is a natural thing to do. It's something, when I first started out, all my little figures that I drew freehand were all squat. And it didn't dawn on me then. Only when you start using square drawing that you start realizing just how far you are actually out in your drawing side. So while I respect freehand drawing, and keep going, Alan, if it pleases you to do so, but do bear in mind that square drawing does help.
Excellent. Oh, good advice there, Dad. I hope that helps. Next one, Gabrielle doing another 2-animal commission. Gabrielle says, "Hi, Steve and Colin. First of all, thank you very much for last time's feedback show on my portraits. The customer was very happy with the double-mounted artwork. The idea to push the smaller animal more into the background is fantastic. I have no idea why I didn't come up with that. It makes total sense. Thank you so much. The attached picture shows 2 different dogs taken by 2 different perspectives again. The left one was more in shadow, while the right one wasn't. Would you make the left shadow side darker? Also, does the body of the black dog need to be shorter or extended? I wanted them close to each other so that the fur could overlap, but if I had done it any closer, then the ears of both would have touched. This is not easy, and I hope one day I will get a photo of 2 animals together."
Yes, it's very hard, isn't it, when you're doing that? I used to have a nightmare when I was presented with this problem, and how I got out of it, I put two dogs side by side, but didn't join them up like you've done. I would have left that. You could have done it quite easily, I think, by coming back, taking some of the back off the dog effectively and making it more like the other one. You could have made them more or less the same pose, really, if you think about it. And so that's probably what I would have done here. As far as making it dark, and you've got to be careful with the dark side, especially the dark dog, because it would have, what you've got there is just about acceptable. But if you'd made it any darker, it would have been worse, because you'd have shown up the light dog more. So really, again, when you're doing commission work of this kind, really you do need 2 pictures of animals within the same contrast level. It's very hard, and I don't envy you. I don't envy anybody doing commission work. I know it's good money and it's a good way of doing it, because you're forced to do commission work, but you've really got to think it through a bit more than that. But that's what I would have done.
Okay. Well, keep going.
Do you think, have I answered the question?
I think you have, yeah. I think that's fine. I think, yeah, it is difficult. I think it's practice, and obviously each commission is going to be different, so hopefully it'll get easier with people, sending good photos as well. It makes a huge difference. Yeah.
And also, Steve, these little tips that we get, I know, when I say I tend to be a little bit too critical sometimes, I appreciate that, but I have to be that way because other people will be looking at it and saying, well, yeah, I can see that's what I would have done. Therefore, it's all information. It's all good information that when they do their own pictures, they say, oh, I won't fall into that trap. And that's what we do. We tend to fall in traps all the time. But the background's okay. There's nothing wrong with the background. I'd have probably made it, if you look at the colour in between the dogs, the background colour, I probably would have made that more or less all over. Okay. I wouldn't have darkened the other side. It tends to, you tend to separate the picture in the picture, if you see what I mean. You've got one light dog and one dark dog.
I see.
That's what I would have done. Anyway.
Okay.
It helps.
Thanks, Gabrielle. Next one, picture sent to us by Bianca. Hi, Colin and Steve. Can you help me out? I almost throw my pencils out. I just can't seem to get the right colours for this dog, and in particular the ears and shadows. I hope you can help me.
I certainly can. I've done quite a few of these, and the answer really is if you pick up your colours like the ochres for the dog, the ready ochres, like the 186, 187, 188, all of those colours, and you put them on there, you'd need sunglasses to look at it because it's so bright. So how do you get over that? Because you've still got to use those colours, whether you like it or not, because they're the only colours we've got that will create that effect. What you do is you put a base colour on. Now, I've told you this before many times, and the base colour here will be a grey. Because if you look at the ear, this is the clue here. Look at both ears. They're both the same. They don't really look the same colour as the face, do they? They're kind of greyish, where the face, or the head, I should have said, is more ochre. But you still use the grey for both. And then, and again, like I've said many times before, practice is on spare paper. What I'm telling you now. Put the grey on. Quite a good base I would use here, 270 for instance. Even in the dark colours I'd use 270. And then you can then start putting the 187 or the 186, or try both. And then the 283, try that as well, because you'll need it for the darker colours. And then when you want a really dark colour, then 177 or 176 would work on those darker colours. I'd avoid, for the time being, I'd avoid black, but you could, if necessary, use a black, or even the 175 would work on that. Now, what would happen then if you start playing with those colours? You'll end up with similar colours to you see on the dog at the moment, because by using the colour shaper, once you put those 186s, 187s, 273s on, you'll find that it will blend into the grey that you've already put on. See what I mean? You can't put it on top, it's got to be underneath. And that would give you the colour of that. So this is where you've gone wrong. You've tried to put in maybe the 186 and 187 directly on the paper. And if you're using the ombre paper, you've got a sand colour, and it would have been very bright. So that's the way out of that one. Practice, though. Practice on spare paper.
Trying to get those colours, yeah.
Yeah, you've got to, because where you can't practice on the dog, for goodness sake. If you start doing it and it ruined it, you've all that drawing ruined. But you only need to do a little bit of the ear and a little bit of the top of the head. Practice until you get it right, because you will get it right if you play with those colours I've showed you and told you.
Perfect. Excellent. I hope that helps, Bianca. The next one from Dolores. Hi, Stephen. This is my first attempt at pastels. I wonder if you could pass it along to Colin and if he could give me some pointers. The challenges were mostly the shading of the skin. The blanket ripples were indeed a challenge, but I hope they will come with practice. My medium is oils, which is my passion, but I am determined to master pastels with the help of the master Colin. Thanks for any help you can give.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Well, I can certainly help you there. I wish I'd done something like that when I first started, I tell you. It's a good representation. It doesn't work the same as mine because you're not working the same way. Now, I'm looking at your paper. It's difficult to tell whether that's our paper or not. If it's our paper, it's got very light. Therefore, we assume, and I think you do say, that the picture is actually more pink than it actually shows on there. So it's a little bit difficult for me to assess it. But coming to the skin, well, it's just a matter of putting the colours on, as I've showed you and I've told you. And again, you could have practiced this on spare paper before you started. I've done a little bit of that skin just to see how it worked. And then once you do a little bit of the skin, you've got the whole lot. You know, you can just vary it. As far as a blanket's concerned, that's quite hard to do. And it's all a question of shading and understanding how the blanket works. If you look at the fold, the two right in the center there of the blanket, you've got a very, very deep dark color that comes from the skin down to the bottom of the picture. And that's pretty dark. Now, you've got it sort of the same sort of tone, but you haven't got any in-between tones. That's between the dark and the light. And you need to get that in. And if you get that in and start developing that with the color shaper, you get a more rounded look. What you've got is chalk and cheese situation. So that's what you do, and that's the secret to it. When's a line not a line? How many times have I said that in the past?
Yeah.
See, when's a fold, not a fold. You see, or when's a fold a line, and yours is a line and mine's a fold. There's the difference. It's the understanding of how the subject that you're actually working on
And
works.
creating that 3D effect as well.
Mm, mm, mm. But it's hard. Don't. I'm not telling you it's easy, but you know it's possible because you can see it done.
Excellent. I hope that helps, Dolores, and well done. Congratulations. So here's the picture you were talking about here. Greg has redone the Prowling Tiger picture, and I've put his previous one he sent us on the left and the new one he sent us on the right. And what a difference, right?
Unbelievable. That is one of the most incredible things I've seen, Greg. So brilliant, absolutely, and everybody watching that will not believe that. That not only have you done exactly what I said you should do, and it's worked, but you've kind of got a much better artistic license with the grass. Still a little bit work to be done, but the difference is amazing. People, I'm sure, that see that picture will be gobsmacked.
Yeah, it's such a huge difference.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Well done.
Now, what about the other one?
So the other one...
There's nothing I could...
The other one, Greg says that the trees and the bushes were a challenge. He darkened the dark areas more in this piece than previous works, and would like Colin to comment on the tone of the placement of the dark areas in the tree and the bushes. Again, it's contrast, isn't it, in the foliage?
Yeah, the one I would like to pick out, can I just pick one of them, because there's so many there. I'll just pick one of them out, if I may. The one right in the middle, against the thatch, that big lump of tree there. Now, if you look at mine, you see, you can't really see too much of a pattern in the dark. There's a little bit of a pattern, always has to be. But in yours, you've got too much of a pattern. You needed to break that up a bit so that it becomes less, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you look at that, and I pointed it out to you, you'll go, oh, yeah, I can see it now. How to get out of that? You actually can get out of that, believe it or not, Greg. All you need to do is, if you've got a colour, if you've got putty rubber, go into that dark with a putty rubber. You might need to, make a bit of a point on it and take off some of the dark from there, okay? And what will happen is you'll leave a little bit of it left, and then you can spread it like I've done, with the darker colours going in different parts of the tree. I've done that myself, so I know it does work. But it's
spreading that contrast.
How many times I said foliage is really hard, yeah. What you've done, I think, very well, if I might say, is the right above the seat. You've got the seat there, and above the seat, you've done a really good job of that section of foliage. Generally speaking, I'm very impressed.
Fantastic.
I know how hard that is. It's the same, really, on the top right-hand corner. The same thing applies there as I was telling you about the other tree. It's a little bit too much dark. You kind of put lines round there where there's more. It's got to be more random.
Yes.
Practice, though. The more you practice, the better you'll be at it.
Excellent. Nice one, Greg. So the next one's from Maggie. Maggie's done the Dance at the Bougival painting. Maggie's done this on A3, so it's a photograph rather than the scan. She says she struggled with getting the background right, especially on the right-hand side of the tree. I also found the glasses on the table difficult as the masterclass skipped over these. Can you give me some pointers for getting the glass to look realistic, please?
I can tell you exactly why. And if you look at mine, before you look at yours, you see mine, first of all, the jacket at the back is darker. The table is a little darker. Everything is darker, but the glass isn't. Much darker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got a contrast between those two, and you can clearly see it. Now, if you look at yours looks a bit muted. Now, if you'd have darkened the jacket behind a little more, darkened the table just a little more, not much more, just a little more, and then put some tone in the glass, instead of being white, you switch back to mine again, and you see I've got some dark in there. What I've done is I've given you the impression that you're looking at the jacket or what's behind the glass. You haven't done that, so you've lost the opacity, is it the word?
I think,
Of
yeah.
making it look see-through.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you've got to do. You've got to look at a subject like that and think, how can I make it look see-through? Well, what you do is you put what's on the other side of it, and
Yeah.
then it looks see-through. You know, see what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe a little more definition between the wine and the glass itself. That's the difference. That's how you do it. And practice again.
Yeah.
Just practice again. You could actually, if you haven't done it already, or if you haven't framed it, or I don't want to suggest you deframe it, but if you have still got it available, you still could do what I've done there. Put a little bit of contrast. The darker part of that chappie's jacket behind, put that into the glass, like I've done.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it look more, as I say, opaque.
Yeah.
Not opaque, the other way, see-through.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think you're right. Yeah, I can see that now that you've mentioned that. It seems clear, doesn't it? I would not have thought of that before. That, you know, if in order to make a glass appear see-through, you've got to put what's behind it in the glass so that it looks like it's see-through. But yeah, obvious. There
is a nice project actually that I got a feeling somebody's mentioned it to me, whether it was Maggie or not. There is an exercise with a glass, a wine glass, and was it with the Turkish Delight as well?
Yeah,
I seem to remember. That's a very good example. If you look at that, you'll see what I'm talking about. A bit clearer.
Fantastic. Well done, Maggie. That is not an easy project, so well done. Next one from Torne. Hello, Steve. I would appreciate Colin's comments on my picture. The reference picture is from the internet and is a photo of Big Head taken by Edward S. Curtis, approximately 1905. Since it was black and white photo, I only used 5 colours, 101, 230, 233, 181 and 199, and it was fun doing it, but still difficult. Looking forwards to Colin's wise comments, especially on the shadowing, which I struggled with. So what do you think?
You will do, yeah. This is well. You've got a good contrast there, which is what we've been talking about all the way along the line. I suppose the thing that probably lets you down a little bit is there isn't the in-betweens. We were talking about the blanket just now, weren't we? We were talking about that, and I said to you, you need in-between colours. So let's just pick one of those areas out, shall we? If you look at the forehead particularly, now what we have on the photograph is obvious wrinkles. And they're obvious. Now imagine that was a blanket, right, on his head. Same idea, isn't it? If you look at that, you can see that there's light and there's dark and there's in-between colours. Colours that grade off one way or another, depending on the lighting. Now, if you look at yours, you've just put half a dozen wiggly lines on there. And this is the difference between making something that is more realistic and making something that you think you should do, you know. And that applies another area, if I might pick up on, is the nose itself. On the left-hand side of the nose, you've got, on your picture, you've got a line that runs from the right-hand side of the eye down to the nostril. Now, show me where that is on the picture of the photograph. It's not there, is it? So you've invented a line. Now you'll say to me, yeah, hang on, there is not, there isn't, not in the same way you've done it. So what you do there is you just make it an impression of a line or a bit of shading. But that, in my opinion, is probably the thing that I would change if I was going to change anything at all. Even if you didn't do anything at all, but just sort of put a little bit of 230 on it or 101 just to even it off, because you're misinterpreting what's going on there.
It must be difficult when.
But otherwise,
sorry, I was going to say it must be difficult to interpret a picture when there's this much shading, this much shadow in, because you've got to kind of say, oh, is that a line? Is that shadow? Is that a contour on the face, or is it? It must be quite hard.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Steve. Yeah, but actually, I would have called that picture of yours slightly unfinished. It hasn't. All you need to do is to go back in again and put a bit of finesse in there. You need to soften the lines, especially the left cheek under the eye. You see, you've got a very sharp line there. That just needs to be softened. All these things can be softened, and you can do that. Pastel pencils will allow you to do it, and you can get some wonderful. We have got later on. We've got a picture, a black and white graphite picture that I've done, and I've used graphite. I haven't used pastel pencils, but the same principle applies, and that will be really good for you to see eventually when it comes out. So there are moves afoot, folks, that help. And one other small thing I would say is the hair is really hard. And what you've done on, if you look at the area below the left-hand side of the chin, you've got hair that's coming over that area, and it's casting a shadow there. Now, what you've done is slightly misinterpreted it. See what I mean? If you look at the like almost a graphic window frame and whatever, where it's not on the original picture. Now, what do you do about that? Well, this is where artistic license comes in. When you see something like that, you've got to say, the hair has got to be done that way, but what about that dark line that's there? Can you pick it out, Steve, for me? Could you think that? Put your little cursor. That's it. That's the one coming right down to the bottom of the picture. If it was me, I'd have got rid of that altogether. That wouldn't have been in my picture,
right?
Because it's not necessary. You see what I mean? So, if you'd have made it a little bit lighter and just followed the hair down, I'd have put that in, and the rest of it, it's similar. You know, there's a few there if you look at them on yours. That's the bit that is really stands out even more than the bit on the nose, in my opinion. But with any picture you get, any photograph you get, you're going to get areas that you must change. You haven't got any choice. You've got to change them. It's artistic license. It's not just that. It just makes a better representation. Because the poor chap who photographed that in 1905 didn't have any choice. That's how he was, and that's how it's going to turn out. But there are reasons for those shadows to be there, but they're not obvious. And when they're not obvious, you've got to be prepared to work your magic and change. There's lots of ways I could think of doing that, but I'm not going to go into them all now. But there are things I could have done that would have made that a little better. Extended the hair down, for instance. He's got long hair on the other side. Why couldn't he have had it on this side? See what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful. I hope other people have learnt actually from that too. It's got good pointers there. Next one, this is the last one actually, from Betty. Hi Steve, I very much enjoyed this exercise and learnt a lot. Every time I do a pastel drawing, I feel like I'm getting a better grasp on some of Colin's techniques. I seriously want to improve my shading on the hair. Colin's is always so even and smooth, and mine just looks like dark lines. On this drawing, I'm specifically referring to the bib on the puppy. I know I need practice, but the correct technique seems to be escaping me no matter how many times I watch Colin's expert hands, but I will certainly continue to try. I made this pup's eyes blue rather than green, as the exercise showed. Most black and white borders collies in the US have blue eyes, whereas the red and white border collies usually have the green eyes. I also used blue rather than green in the background. I'm not sure if it was a success, but I don't hate it. Thanks for the website and this bounty of art to learn from. It's so much fun. Betty. So what would you say about this fur, the hair?
Right, well, the hair. The hair is just simply a case of not enough contrast. Once again, you've been shy, as we have several times in this particular feedback show. I've mentioned this. You need to be a little bit bolder. One of the areas I can pick out particularly is under the chin. You see, if you're under your picture, you've gone in with the one. I can't remember what it was now, whether it was 233 or whether it was 273. I can't remember. But anyway, it's a mid-grey. And you've gone in with that on top of the white and the other grey that we would have used, the 230 or the 270. And because those other colours are quite strong, it weakens the 273 or 233. That's no excuse though, because you just press a bit harder, make it a bit stronger. And that's what is needed there. Not only that, but you could have also used the 181 or the 175. Again, I can't remember the colours on this, but it'd been one of the two of them. And that's a dark grey, or the Payne's grey. And that, although it's a very dark colour, put onto those that light area, you could have then used the colour shaper, and it would have given the effect that I've got on mine. So this is the difference. You haven't given it enough welly, really. As far as the bib's concerned, it's pretty good. I mean, getting the fur looking sort of scraggly like that, it takes a bit of practice. You've got to. If you see when you watch me do that, you'll see me twisting my pencil around when I'm doing it. You know, artistically, you know, like an artist should do, like. And that's what you've got to do. That's what you've got to do. You've got to think like that. You've got to think a bit like an artist. I'm not just drawing a representation of a puppy that, you know, has been combed and groomed. He's a puppy that's a bit scruffy, and that's what you want. So you go with the flow. You go with the way your feeling is. You've got to feel that fur, and that's the way I do it. Now, once you've got that dark enough, you'll always see me go back on with white, and the white then goes back over the top, giving you the difference between or in contrast. Once again, you see, if you look at the bottom of the picture, right at the bottom of the picture, where you have the fur going between the two legs, again, you see you haven't got that contrast. It just looks a continuation of that. And without that contrast, the legs don't stand away, do they?
Right.
See that? Or certainly the right leg doesn't stand away. So you've lost a little bit. You've also extended the picture a bit, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. You can extend it. But if you extend the picture, you've got really got to make sure that you do something like that.
Okay. So that's
my advice
easy
to
enough
you
to do.
always is not do that. I wouldn't extend your picture at the moment. I don't say I do it all the time, but when I've got a photograph and I want to extend it. But if you see me do a picture, I wouldn't extend it. You've extended it both at the bottom and on the right hand side. And if Steve did his little magic, you'll see that by dropping that back a little bit with his little pointer. Can you do that, or am I pushing my luck here? That's it. Go on, go in from the other side. That's it. You know what? It's a bit more so, Steve. That'll do. See the difference it makes. You don't need that little bit of extra you got on the bottom of yours.
Okay.
And it looks a little bit better because of it.
There you go. Okay. Well, if there's
well
one
done,
thing
though. It's still a very good picture, though. Go on.
I was going to say, if there's one thing we can take away from that, it's contrast. And it seems like that's a lot of the theme of these feedback shows, really, contrast. But we'll keep saying it because, I mean, not everyone watches every single show, and everyone's, sending in new artwork all the time. But that's a real big thing. Be brave, be bold, and
that's it.
Add contrast.
Absolutely. It's okay to be like that, but when you're wielding a paintbrush or when you're wielding a pastel pencil or a soft pastel or whatever medium you're doing, it's a different matter. You think, oh my God, I'm going to ruin it. Oh, if I put this, I'm going to ruin it. I used to tell my students, I said, well, you're saying you're going to ruin it. Actually, you're going to ruin it if you don't do it. See what I mean? You're not. It is a good point. And they said, oh yeah, you're probably right. And then they see me, because I used to take their work and say, let me show you what I mean. And I used to be spellbound. Goodness gracious, what a difference you've made. And all it is putting a little bit of strength in or lightening a bit or whatever. But then I've got the confidence to do it. Yeah. And that's what you'll get eventually. Well, we've seen it all. Look at Greg's. Just take from this, if you don't take anything else away, look at Greg. Now, Greg had done that tiger as he thought, and he wasn't brave enough. He just wasn't brave enough. He came on the show. I saw it, and I said, look, this is what you need to do. Be brave, be bold, and it'll make the difference. He did, and it has.
There you go.
Great.
Fantastic. All right. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another feedback show. If anyone wants to get their artwork featured, then all you have to do is be a member of our website and email us your picture and what you'd like help on, and then we can feature it on our next show. So we're back in 2 weeks and back next week with another podcast, and we'll see you all then. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Bye for now.